This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Kindness. We see it all around us. We see it when someone pays for someone else's coffee or holds the door open for another person. We see it in the smallest of gestures, like a smile or a kind word. But it's different when we turn on the news or social media. Oftentimes, what we hear about, what outlets are pushing, is the opposite of kind. Welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. Our goal is to give you a place to relax, to revel in stories of people who have received or given kindness, a place to inspire and motivate each and every one of us to practice kindness every day. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. I am your host, Mike Rathbun. And before we get into the show, let me remind you that over at the Deluxe Edition Network, every month they highlight a podcast of the month. And in January of 2024, they have 3. First up is Barrel-Aged Flicks. New movies are featured weekly, spiraling into hilarious discussions. The guys review an alcoholic beverage that relates to the movie they review, then talk about the movie with facts, trivia, and clips. Then, their final thoughts. New Barrel-Aged Flicks episodes are every Monday, and a bonus episode is every Thursday entitled The Tasting Room. Make sure to join Ron, Stu, Chase, Ragnar, and Goot for this hilarious podcast. It does contain explicit language and content, just a heads up. Next up is Bev's Video Kingdom. There you'll find 4 small-town friends as they hilariously and unpretentiously review movies they love and then hold highly competitive drafts, that's air quotes, on categories related to that week's film. And of course, also on the list is the Kindness Matters podcast. Check them out, deluxeeditionnetwork.com. And now, on with the show. Okay, everybody, my guest today on the show, I don't even know where to start. He is a skydiver, a base jumper. He was a radio DJ. Just talking to him, I got kind of a Dr. Johnny Fever vibe. For those of you who are too young to know, look it up, Google it. And he is now a successful motivational speaker, coach, vision board coach, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And he's founded his own Philanthropy. I didn't do my ma before I came on. Please welcome to the show, Steve Gamlin. Welcome, Steve. It's great.
Thank you very much for having me. Great to have an additional conversation to the great one we already had off air.
I know, it was so natural, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was just
like friends sitting on the front porch.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now you started. Was radio your first gig, your first job, or was that? Did that
not
come
the first
later?
job, but that was my first. When I was 11, I wanted to be a radio DJ because of Dr. Johnny Fever on WKRP in Cincinnati. He was my inspiration. I also wanted to be an author of my own books because my mom instilled the love of reading and writing in myself and my sister. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian because Steve Martin was huge at the time in the late 70s.
Oh my
God.
God.
I wanted to be a teacher of people, but not in a classroom because I had an amazing 5th grade teacher named Mrs. Farron, who, whenever I finished my work early, would encourage me to help out other students. So I didn't even know that was basically coaching. When I was 11 years old, I just loved helping people out. So all these things I wanted to be. And when I was 24, I got my first radio job and quickly found out it paid nothing. So I started a weekend DJ business. So I pretty much worked 6 or 7 days a week for 10 years. So I did about 15 years worth of hours in 10.
Wow. Yeah, you think about DJing, and I also wanted to be a DJ, but I never got there. The best I could do was an intern. I guess they'd call it an intern now. I was like a weekend guy at this country radio station in the town I grew up in. And my first night, I was supposed to record a Paul Harvey segment. and then play it later on after our AAA or AA hometown baseball game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I hit the record button at the time, and I went to cue it up, and there was nothing there.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Which I should have been more upset about that, but I'm like, hey, now I get to play music and talk.
So
if I hadn't gone into the Air Force, I probably still wouldn't be employed there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So yeah, DJs, they're not rich guys, people.
No. And the funny part was I wasn't even actually an on-air DJ until my 8th of 10 years because I was a rock morning show producer, a comedy writer, did all these things behind the scenes, mostly because I did not have the confidence in my voice. I did not have this version of my voice.
Right.
Back then. Very insecure, very low self-esteem, no confidence at all. But
it must have come out in your writing.
The comedy writing was good. I actually won an international award for a comedy bit that I wrote. It was a commercial parody. You remember the old Motel 6 commercial? And we'll leave a light on for you.
Yeah, yep.
I wrote one called Manger 6, which is basically what it would have been with Jesus and his disciples trying to rent a room after a long day of curing lepers and such. And, through that, and someone else voiced it for me. He did an amazing job.
Okay.
And our boss came to us and, hey guys, it's the annual, radio and production awards. You got to send something. And we're looking at him like, we've never won a single thing.
Yeah.
We got to send something. So at the last minute, I decided to throw this bit in, and it wound up taking first place out of all market sizes in every radio station in America, Canada, Mexico, and the UK.
Holy crap.
And 3 weeks before we found out we won the award, the radio station got sold and we all got fired.
Oh, no.
So somebody broke into the trophy case and stole the trophy and gave it to me. And I've had it ever since. It's actually up on the wall.
Somebody.
In my recording studio. A friend of mine.
Dear friend, apparently.
Very good friend, yeah.
Risking larceny charges for you.
Well, we didn't have cameras at the time, so it's a little hazy.
Yeah. Details are fuzzy.
Details were fuzzy. Well, hey, during those 10 years, a lot of details get fuzzy. I was exhausted the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. So you talk about the station being sold. Yeah. I never understood format changes on radio stations.
Yeah.
In the mid 90s, I listened to a country station up here in Minnesota. Always had it on. I went through a whole country thing. And I went to bed. I had my alarm clock set for the next morning. I wake up to Howard Stern and some metal radio. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm looking at my radio. I'm like, did I change it in my sleep? What the?
Yep.
Nope, they just changed formats.
Yep. It all comes down to money, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, everything.
It happened to me twice.
Did it?
And the reason I left radio is because I heard the rumblings of it about to happen at my third radio group in 10 years. Somebody said, hey,
wow.
Steve, did you hear Scott, the owner's going through a divorce? You might have to sell the stations. And I just said, I'm out of here. And I, without talking about it with my then wife, without lining up another full-time job, all I had was my little weekend DJ business, which was making maybe $11,500 a year at the time.
Yeah.
I just quit. I walked away. I said, look, I can't take this hit again. Because even though
that's hard.
I never filed for unemployment. I just crawled into a hole.
Oh boy.
And hoped for the best. I mean, I just sank.
Yeah.
There's another reminder. You're not good enough. And then each time a connection reached out and said, hey, Steve, I heard about an opportunity. That's how I got the successive jobs. But at the end of it, I just said, look, I'm done. This is it.
Yeah.
Not my most well thought out decision.
But long story short, in the end, that worked out for you.
It took a while.
Right.
Yeah, it was a long, long story with a lot of introspection and overcoming a lot of things, especially being self-deprecating and bad self-talk and lack of confidence and all of that. Somebody said to me recently, "Oh my gosh, I'm almost intimidated by you." And I said, "Why?" "I'm about as threatening as a salad." And she goes, "Your confidence is off the chart." She goes, "I'm amazed by it." And I just said, "Okay, let me tell you something. First off, thank you. I appreciate that."
Well, sure. Yeah.
But second, 20 years ago, this is not the version of me that walked the planet. I was brutally self-deprecating, and which I don't recommend to anybody. Self-talk, how you speak to yourself and about yourself.
Yeah.
So much more critical. But see, I didn't think it was a bad thing because I could get laughs doing it.
Sure. Absolutely. But that takes a toll over time, doesn't it?
It took a big toll over time. And it took me about 10 years after all of that stuff went down, when I blew up my life. My first marriage ended. I was tens of thousands of dollars in debt and had to crawl home and live with family. I spent another 10 years being self-deprecating, even after I became a speaker. Throughout most of the years that I did stand-up comedy, which was 04 to 11, until a friend of mine who invited me to speak on one of the stages, he said, "I got a 3-day event. I want you to speak all 3 days." Great. Small audience. First 2 days went great. Third day, I was in a bad mood. He wasn't even paying me for this. It was just helping out a friend.
Oh, okay.
And third day, I just melted down into this self-deprecating rant in the middle of it. And I was getting some laughs, but I destroyed my credibility.
Oh.
And this was June of 2011, I believe. And this friend pulled me aside after, put me in a chair. Him and all the other speakers sat in a circle, and they staged an intervention.
Oh.
Usually for drug addicts, but in this case, it was somebody who was just demolishing himself on stage. And he said, "If I ever hear you talk to or about yourself like that again, first off, we're no longer brothers. And second, you are not welcome on any stage I ever create."
Wow.
And he said, "Here's what I just watched you do. Here's what I've been watching you do since I met you. Bro, you got to stop this. You got to knock it off. It's not funny." And that was the day it finally dawned, like the clouds parted, like in the movies, the light came through and the angels went, "Ah," and the lesson was learned and the hero was born. And ever since then, I go back to that. And I refer to it now. I said, here's how good of a friend he was. He put on a pair of steel-toed boots and kicked me so hard in part of my body that my doctor only gets to see once a year that the lesson finally stuck.
So you had never put together your self-deprecating talk with your life, you blowing up yourself, your life.
No, I thought it was just part of the story. And I thought I was doing a good thing by being so open and honest about it. But what I was not doing was showing the part of moving beyond it. I was still in the middle of it. And I was still actively doing it.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was funny. And it's not actually, in the real scheme of things, it's not funny at all. And I catch people now doing it. And with kid gloves, I don't put on the boots and kick them like he did. But with kid gloves, I'll say, "Hey, you know what? Let me just share where my life was going when I was doing that and where it's gone since."
Right.
And why that may not be your best idea.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. So here you are, you're 10 years in and you're broke. And you have kind of an epiphany?
Well, it was kind of thrust at me, but yeah. When people say, "What's that moment that changed your life?" I go, "Oh, I got that. I don't even have to think
If we're still talking the same story, I'm thinking there was some divine intervention there somehow.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Yeah. In August of 2003, and I live up in New Hampshire, it was a very hot and humid Friday afternoon. And I was driving around doing some errands just aimlessly. And I drove past this place. It was a mini golf place, but they also had a driving range on part of their property. And I'm a horrible golfer. And in order to avoid denting anyone's cars, I decided to go to the farthest tee box on the property, which was also under these gigantic steel towered power lines.
Oh, God.
So here I am just whacking the crap out of a $3 bucket of golf balls, and a thunderstorm came ripping through. I mean, thunder, lightning, wind, pouring rain, everything. And everybody but me ran from the storm. And I just stayed out there like, well, I spent $3. I only have a few bucks left for the week. So I'm going to use up my $3 and
get
I don't
my
care
$3
anyway.
worth.
Yeah, I get my $3 worth. And so I hit my bucket of golf balls And at one point, I just held up the club, just being sarcastic or really stupid. I don't know which one yet. But I held up the club and looked up and said, go ahead. I dare you. Go ahead. I don't care. And nothing happened, of course. And I just chuckled to myself like, look, even he doesn't want to take me out right now. And then I saw 2 more buckets of balls from guys that had run away from the storm and weren't coming back. So I hit their bucket of golf balls. So I hit for like an hour in the storm. I couldn't even lift my arms at the end. I had like T-Rex arms by the time I was done. And I got to my car and I opened the door and all of a sudden the rain stops and the sun starts breaking through the clouds. And I just started laughing. I just thought that was funny. It was like the happiest moment of that whole week. And I look up and I'm thinking, that was well played.
Well played, sir. Yes.
Well played, sir. Yes. And the next day, I was on a phone call with who was then a brand new life coach, new to me. I was one of his first clients. He was coaching me for free. And he asked this question that changed my life. It was the first one. How was your week? And I said, well, let me tell you what happened yesterday. And it was very self-deprecating, but it was very funny.
Right.
And when he stopped laughing, which is something a coach should not do when your life sucks, is
yeah.
laugh. But when he stopped laughing, he said, okay, I've got one more question for you. Have you ever thought of being a motivational speaker or a stand-up comedian? I think you'd be great at both.
We'll be right back to my interview with Steve Gamlin. But first, let's hear from one of the Deluxe Edition Network podcasts, Spoil My Movie.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Mel.
And together we host the podcast Spoil My Movie.
We were watching movies anyway.
And we were having in-depth conversations about those movies too.
So we decided to share our thoughts with the world.
You can expect me to gripe about inaccurate details like supposedly cold weather, but you can't see anyone's breath.
And you can expect me to be totally adorable, but also psychologically deep.
And by the end of each episode, we'll provide our respective ratings.
Using a rating scale custom tailored to the movie in question.
Check us out wherever you get your podcasts.
We're everywhere. We're actually behind you right now.
What he didn't know, and what I had not thought of in years, are all the things I wanted to be when I was 11 years old.
Sure.
Radio DJ, author. At the time, I was working on my first book.
Oh, okay.
Which was a collection of wedding stories based upon the weirdest things that ever happened to me as a wedding DJ.
Oh, I would imagine that's a voluminous book.
16 short stories. And I'd wanted to be a stand-up comedian and a motivational speaker or a teacher of people.
Sure.
And I said, I've wanted to do both those things for most of my life, but I have no idea how to pursue it. And on his desk, you want to talk divine intervention. In the junk mail pile on his desk was a little card, a brochure from a local community college that had a class called Intro to Stand-Up Comedy that started 2 weeks later.
Whoa.
He goes, you won't believe this. He goes, this is on my desk. Will you go? I said, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he asked, have you ever heard of Toastmasters? And I said, well, they kind of teach you how to speak and be confident and all that. He says, you got the storytelling. He's just go sharpen your tools. There's a chapter that meets near your house. And by the way, they're the most award-winning and successful chapter in New Hampshire.
Ooh.
So I went there a week after the first comedy class. Did stand up for 7, was a Toastmaster for 8, won a bunch of awards, had an absolute ball. And here we are.
Yeah, that is a crazy story. But you use these life events of yours in your motivational speaking, in your coaching, right?
Oh, yes. And I always laugh when people say, hey, Steve, how do you make up the stories you tell on stage? And I always do the same thing. I look them right in the eye. I tilt my head like a puppy and go, really? Have you not
Somebody
been
could
paying
make
attention
this
to my
up.
life over the past 20 years? I said, come on. I am not short of material. I'm not struggling.
I'm a good writer, but I couldn't make up that.
Yeah, exactly. I said, I just pay attention and I take a lot of notes.
Yeah.
Of everything in the world that goes on around me that involves me or inspires me in some way. I write down a lot of stuff. And I'm very fortunate that my mom put that love of writing and in being creative
for sure
into my mind. And it's easy for me to come up with stuff, and especially to come up with maybe metaphors or stories or ways to teach a lesson, because what facts tell, stories sell. So I became a storyteller.
Yeah. Storytelling is, I mean, we're all kind of storytellers, right? That goes back to like caveman days, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This whole podcast thing is just the 21st century version of painting on a wall.
Yeah. Sitting around the campfire telling a story about how Grok, the other caveman, got killed by the dinosaur, and the way the guy retold it, everybody laughed, thought it was funny, so they kept telling the story.
Exactly.
Yeah. And here we are.
So, okay, but now when you're motivational speaking, is that also aligned with your vision board coaching? Or is it just motivation? They're two separate.
It started off actually separate, but I started to get people asking me, hey, I know you do the vision board work and you have the learning program that you taught and you do coaching. So I started to weave some of that into the keynote speeches.
Okay.
Because I would encourage people to not only become the best version of themselves, but know where they are right now and where they wish to go in life and to create that vision. So that started to weave into the speaking as well, which then led to people saying, hey, would you like to come to our company and share the program with us, and how do we continue to work with you? Well, we created a coaching program. So it all organically over time, as the need came up, as people had certain pains in their personal and professional lives, they would ask me, hey, you talk about this. Do you have anything that goes deeper? Of course, the answer is always, oh, of course, we're just putting the finishing touches on that. And of course,
then you go home and write it up
at the time. Then you go home and you create it. Yeah. The demand, the world will tell you what it wants from you if you just pay attention.
Exactly. Yeah. I have never sought out help with vision boarding. Is that a thing? Vision boarding?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
A
lot of people have vision board parties, and those just make me shake my head.
I saw a friend of mine is a coach, and she advertised this class for how to create the perfect vision board. Mm-hmm. And I thought, maybe I should check that out. And then I went and looked at it, and it's like $300. And I'm like, I'm not that interested. Yeah. It's something that I understand, and I understand how it's supposed to work, mm-hmm. but I've never really gotten into it.
Yeah. And depending on what she does, that's actually not an extreme price as far as, the ballpark of what's out there. You can go to a vision board party right around the beginning of the year every year. You see them advertised everywhere. Hey, $25 for having a vision board party with wine, cheese, crackers, scissors, glitters, glue sticks, magazines, and poster boards. Come on down, get loaded, and map out your successful life. And,
that actually sounds enticing.
I used to bash on them a lot, but kind of like you have New Year's resolutions and you have goals.
Right.
You have vision board parties, and then you have programs like mine. It's something. Right. It can trigger you to start thinking about what you want. It may not be as in-depth as my program.
As a starting place.
That other woman you were talking about, I mean, my program is $1,000.
Yeah.
To take you from where you are now to design where you wish to go, create an action plan, boom, 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 little ongoing coaching as well. That's the value that my clients are happy to pay for it. And hers may be great as well. But you're right, though, that a lot of people just look at them and think it's an arts and crafts project, when for me, it is the most powerful goal-setting tool that I've ever imagined, and I've got the results to prove it.
I may have to do some more in-depth looking at that. Yeah. Because, I mean, you go, it's cutting out pictures out of it and pasting it on a board, and how is that supposed to help me? And
right. Well, too many people use them like a letter to Santa Claus anyway. They just go, oh, I have a Lamborghini, a yacht, a mansion, a private jet, a helicopter, a big honking gold watch, and a bank vault full of gold bars and pallets of cash. And they're like, that's my vision board.
That's my vision board, really? Right there.
There's 8 areas of life that you need to be concerned with and aware of. I go, that's one.
Yeah, right.
But it's okay. Nothing wrong with any of those things. But if you're just basically writing a letter to Santa Claus, then, well, we need to talk a little. I just need to educate you a little bit. That's all. I don't want you to fail. I'm not going to laugh at you for that. Maybe a little.
Oh, I would.
But, maybe a little, but I wouldn't want them to tear it up. I would just leave a little room for all these other things like physical health, emotional well-being, relationships, core values, faith, connection, career, and then money. You got the money one down. Let's figure out how to make the best version of you in the process.
Let's slide this Lamborghini and pellets of cash over here and make room for other things that are also important.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. And so now, at some point, you decided to start a philanthropic organization. I cannot believe I got that word out. It's right here. It's on tape. I said it.
So much of what I do is actually difficult to pronounce, like Beach Bum Philanthropy, visualization. A lot of people struggle on that one, and I should just make it a lot easier.
Aluminum and linoleum.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I will not use the word nuclear anywhere because I know a lot of people struggle with that one as well. Yeah.
My wife says nuke.
Yep. There you go. Shorten it right down.
She says it the way George Bush used to say it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I smirk, but I don't correct her because that would be mean.
Yeah.
I know what she was talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. The whole Beach Bum Philanthropy, even before it had a name, right around December of 2012, I was using my business, using my speaking, and I would give 10% of all the money I earned as a speaker on behalf of my client. I would do this while on stage. I would have my checkbook at the time in my back pocket. And I would ask my clients, I say, how many of you would like to be givers in your life and give back and help others? And a lot of people would raise their hand. I said, but you don't have any idea of really what to do or how to do it. And they go, yeah. And if it was a local company, I'd say, all right, what's one of your favorite programs locally that you like to help out? Is there a shelter? Is there a program that helps kids or seniors or homeless or veterans, or what is it? And whoever had hired me would say, well, we'd like to support this one. So I'd say, hey, let me show you how easy it is to give. And I'd pull my checkbook out of my back pocket. I already had the amount written because I knew what 10% of my paycheck was.
Okay, sure.
And I would write a check to the nonprofit. And on the memo line, I would say on behalf of, and I would write my client's name, and I would tear it out and I would give it to the person who hired me. And I said, do me a favor, please deliver this to the program. And when you do, if you don't mind, get a picture of you handing them the check and then send it to me so I can get on social media and tell everybody how generous my clients are.
Nice. They love that. They loved
it. One time they all started applauding and I just said, what's going on? What's happening? And they said, you're so generous. I said, your name's on the check, dude. But that became, that was my favorite part of being on stage. But then I started to speak in other, parts of the country. And sometimes people were like, well, we have this. And I said, I don't want it to just be tied to that one day's paycheck. I want to be actively doing some kindness. And then my family started to get involved and they said they wanted to do it. And we decided to all do it in a concerted effort. And then somebody said, well, Steve, other people may want to support you. You have to give it a name. Like, what do I name it? And they said, well, what's your goal in life? And I just snapped Beach Bum.
I was going to ask where you came up with the name.
I just learned how to surf at the time. Not well, but I could do it. And I said, I love the beach bum mentality where it's kind of laid back. It's not lazy. It's laid back. It's very in touch with the energy of the world around it, like the waves and the tide and all that.
Yeah.
I said, I just want to be in the moment like that. So beach bum. And then they said, well, what's the other word? I said, philanthropy. And that's how it came about. And for 9 years, it was what I referred to as our hippie giving mission. It was
because beach bum does kind of project that image of hippies.
Yeah.
When I first heard about it, I thought it was out in California or something.
Well, that's what people have asked too. I'm like, no, I haven't been in California in a long time. But people started saying, hey, Steve, we'd love to be able to support you and make a donation. I said, well, it can't be tax deductible and we can't ask for any money because we were not a 501c3.
Right.
And I had no intention of making it a 501c3. But then people said, Steve, you guys are so awesome at this. And you make it so much fun. I know corporations would love to give you some money. So you got to do the paperwork. And a dear friend sent me an extra copy of all the paperwork. I looked at it and said, no way am I going to do that.
I've heard it's a lot.
It's daunting. My sister's a CPA and she struggled with some of it, but she also has the patience that I don't have. So she did it, and for just over 3 years, we've been an official 501c3. And
wow, that's awesome.
The rules are very stringent, but other than paying for our domain name and stamps and maybe some envelopes now and then, everything else goes to the programs we help. None of us take a dime. We have a board of directors. Nobody gets a dime of compensation.
Wow.
It's all about giving. Make
Sure.
it creative, make it fun, involve as many people, share ideas on social media, not us on a phone camera going, look at me, I'm helping a homeless person. I refuse
You're not
to ever
Mr.
do
Beast, huh?
that. Oh, that blurs the line for me.
Yeah.
It really does. Too much of it is self-serving, and I really don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, I can see it occasionally to inspire.
Yeah.
But just consistently.
It's all faked.
This is an audio podcast, so I'm patting myself on the back.
Yeah. I mean, so many of the videos are faked. And some of them, actually, I give them credit. At the end, it says this is a dramatization of an act of kindness. Some of them do that. Many don't. And then all these people think, oh my gosh, this person's wonderful. Look at him helping people out. It gives me hope. And I almost want to say it does give hope. But please understand, this isn't really happening.
Right.
This is all pre-formatted, pre-scripted, pre-staged. It's not real.
Yeah, it's so hard to, because I think most people want to believe that that's real and it's really happening.
Sure.
But yeah, like most of life these days, it's pre-scripted.
Yep.
That is fantastic. Wow. What a life you have led.
It has not been boring, I'll tell you that. It's been a lot of fun, and I
call my life a lot of things, but better not call it boring.
Yeah, but it's funny for me because a lot of it, and sometimes say, well, Steve, you've gotten to do all these things and this and that. It must be so exciting. And it's kind of like when you're on the radio. People say it must be so exciting to be on the radio. Radio's boring for most of the time. It's those little moments you get to shine. It's when I'm on stage getting to shine that I love the most. It's when I'm in a conversation with a show host that I absolutely love. When I'm having a conversation with one of my vision board coaching clients who calls up with a problem and within 5 minutes, they're jumping up and down with excitement and joy and passion again.
That's pretty cool.
Those are the moments I love.
Yeah.
I've been in this recording studio laughing, crying, yelling, screaming, cheering, jumping up and down, dancing with my clients on the other side of the camera somewhere in America, celebrating each other. And that's
so cool.
The best.
That makes everything else, that makes all the dull moments worth it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of it is downtime and prep work and writing and producing and social media and creating new content. And I'm working on a new program now, what's going to be called Vision Board 101. It's going to be an introductory version to my larger program so that people can it's like basic training. Because some people get very intimidated by the big program, even though it's not really a big program. It's
right.
10 modules. It's 74 minutes and 52 seconds all combined.
Oof.
The longest module is 11 minutes. So that way I had a client that I called week after week. What module are you on? 4. You were on 4 last week. I know I haven't had time. So that's where the comedy and humor cap comes back.
That'd be me.
I said, okay, you don't have time. So I got off the call. I looked up, I Googled, how long does the average American sit on the toilet every morning? Answer, 12 minutes.
Shut up.
I copied and pasted it, sent it to her. I said, the average American sits on the can for 12 minutes. The longest module of my program is 11. I'm not going to tell you to get off your ass. I'm going to tell you to get on it and keep the tablet in the bathroom. You can finish my program in 10 days. She thought that was the funniest thing. We still joke about it. She would send me a toilet emoji every time she finished a module. She would just send it and not say a word.
That's very funny. That's good stuff right there. Comedy gold.
Yep. Love it. And it's effective because I'm not a coach that yells at people.
Right.
So people say, I need somebody to be a disciplinarian. Well, I am not your guy. I'm going to hug you.
Keep looking.
I'll hug you. I won't scream at you. I might put you in the head the headlock with the head noogie and go, come on, you big dummy. Go ahead, finish the program. But that's the coaching relationship. And we're going to have conversations like this and people ask, what's it like to coach with you? I'm like, this. This right here.
Wow. That's amazing. Steve, it has been such an intense pleasure having you on. I could talk to you forever. It's so comfortable. You are amazing. Your Beach Bum Philanthropy is amazing. You post a lot of pictures of oatmeal cookies. Do you guys make those yourselves?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We cook and we bake a lot for the shelters. Matter of fact, this weekend, myself and my wife Tina are going to be here at our house. My mom and her husband, my stepdad, will be cooking at their house. And my stepmom is going to be cooking at her house. And Tina's mom is going to be baking cakes.
Whoa.
We're all going to meet at 3:00 at one of the shelters. They already know all the food is coming, and we're going to bring as much food as we can because they have an overnight warming station.
Oh, sure.
And Sunday nights, they don't have anybody bringing them food. So
Perfect.
we just decided as a family, we're all going to bake on Saturday and early Sunday, and then we'll bring some stuff. And that's why I try to never put pictures of us doing things. I take pictures of cookies and say, hey, look, if you want to give as a family, if you want to teach your kids something, go get a roll of cookie dough and let your kids cut it up and put it in the pan, and they can each have one. But then reach out to a shelter or a program and say, look, we bake some cookies. Could we bring these there? Because you got to ask permission and we have to earn the trust of all these shelters.
Right.
You can't just show up with home-baked items. You've got to be very, very cautious.
I was going to ask about that because I know it's gone this whole, like it used to be when your kids would go to school and you could send homemade treat. No, they want store-bought now. So, and I know, so. Okay, so as long as you plan it in advance, it's cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we just reach out and they have their favorites now. I mean, I'm not going to say because they're spoiled, but there's things we've made where I walked into one of the shelters recently, one of the programs called Liberty House in southern New Hampshire. They help homeless and in-need veterans. And I peeked my head around the corner to the window, and they didn't say, hi, Steve. They said, pear bread? And I shook my head no, and they went, the saddest face was there on the other side of the glass. And I said, this was an unplanned visit today. I happened to be coming into town. I said, I brought you some canned goods, but no pear bread. And I also love to barbecue, and we've got a little smoker.
Nice.
So they love hickory smoked meatballs with barbecue sauce.
Ooh.
So I do 50 or 60 of those at a time and pop them in
Okay,
the
now I'm
smoker.
hungry.
I know. I said that one time, and my stomach in the middle of an interview went. So, yeah. So it's just little things awesome. Like that. It's so much fun and rewarding, and it's a blast. And I just feel so connected to these people. That's in the simplest ways. That's how simple kindness can be.
Because honestly, therefore, but the grace you could have, had it not been for your coaching connection, that could have been you.
Yeah,
I'm glad it wasn't.
Yeah, me too. It actually, if not for family, giving me a safe place to land, that very easily could have been me over the years because, the spirit was 100% broken.
Yeah.
And I was so mad at myself for what I did to my life that I kept missing potential opportunities until that one hit me right in the face on that coaching call.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, Steve. I'm glad I got an opportunity to chat with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We'll do this again. Let's do it again.
I would love to. Anytime.
We'll stay in touch.
Awesome.
Steve Gamlin, all your information will be in the show notes. And have a fantastic weekend, man.
You too. Thank you very much.
Did you ever just meet somebody and instantly connect with them? That's how my conversation with Steve went this week. He is an absolutely fantastic guy, fascinating. He has lived more life in I don't know how many years than I think most of us have lived in our entire lifetimes, and just so kind and so generous. His philanthropy effort is off the charts amazing, and his coaching is just fantastic as well. It was such an honor for me to be able to spend some time and chat with him. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you were able to take something away from it. And yeah, it was a great show. And so that will about do it for this episode of the Kindness Matters podcast. We'll be back again next week with more. But until then, you know what's coming. Be that person who roots for others. who tells a stranger that they look amazing and encourages others to believe in themselves and their dreams. You have been listening to the Kindness Matters podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rathbun. Have a fantastic week.